Just honored to have Mr. Roger Stone here tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. What a great thing. Wow, this is amazing. I can't wait to hear what I have to say. It is really great to see you. You know, Donald Trump said it so many times during the campaign, and it is absolutely true. I go back to a time almost 20 years ago when he was on Oprah Winfrey's TV show. And she said to him, well, what about you, Donald? Will you ever run for public office? Would you ever run for president? He said, no, I don't think so. Unless things get so bad that I have no choice. See, Donald Trump didn't need to be president in order to be somebody. He already was somebody. He already was the best known real estate magnate probably in the world. He was a brand. And 15 seasons of The Apprentice got him to the point where every American knew who he was. So he didn't have that intermediate step that some candidates for public office have, where first you have to get to know who they are, and then you got to get to know where they stand. You see, people already knew who he was. Good Lord, he did not take any, there was no delays in finding out what he stood for. You see, unlike so many of the politicians and those who become president that we know, there is no Karl Rove in Trump land. There is no snot-nosed speechwriter or feeding him talking points or polling or focus groups to tell him what to say in order to be popular. He speaks from the heart. He speaks from the gut. He verbalizes what most Americans think. And even when he calls some foreign countries a crap hole, which he may or may not have said, he's only saying what people think, because if indeed Haiti is, pardon me, a shithole, it's because Bill and Hillary stole virtually every dollar of the earthquake recovery money through their phony foundation, leaving the people in Haiti destitute with disease and homelessness and crime. So again, I think he's a man with the courage to say what average people think. No, he's not a polished orator. He speaks the people's English. He speaks colloquially, the way you speak around your dinner table. And that's why I think he connects with the American people. Now, we all know, and I'm a product of 10 individual presidential campaigns, beginning with my mentor, Richard Nixon, going on to Governor Ronald Reagan, 1976, 1980, 1984, working for that great patriot Bob Dole. You may not know this, but in the last election, 91-year-old Bob Dole was storming Kansas, Nebraska, Illinois, giving speeches for Donald Trump. Where were the Bushes? Well, they were busy. They didn't endorse Donald Trump. So, and then, of course, working for Trump, and I urged him to run for president in 1988, again in 2000, again in 2012, and then, of course, I was pleased when he finally decided that the time was right. But the perfect storm was created by the politicians. And sadly, I say this, by the Republicans and the Democrats working together, the elite country club Republicans, the leadership of the Democratic Party. No one party could screw things up this bad all by themselves. And what did they give us? Endless foreign wars where our inherent national interests are not clear. Erosion of our civil liberties, reading our emails, monitoring our cell phones and our text messages, filing it all away as metadata. Incredible borrowing and spending and debt for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren to pay off and beyond. Immigration system that's broken, where our streets and neighborhoods are no longer safe. Big international trade deals that they promised us, the Bushes and the Clintons. These are going to be the panacea. This is going to be great. And what did they do? They sucked all the jobs out of America. So they created the perfect storm. They're the ones who created a dynamic in which an outsider, a man who cannot be bought, who cannot be bullied, a man who doesn't owe anybody. Hillary Clinton spent almost $2 billion in her drive to become president. Donald Trump and his supporters may have spent $275 million. No wonder they're so sore that they lost. See, they had it wired. You saw the pollsters. They all said, Trump can't possibly win. It's over. In fact, Hillary's going around saying, Donald, will you agree to the outcome of the election no matter what? Will you say right now you won't challenge the results? And of course, right after Trump won, the first thing she did was challenge the results. In Donald Trump, you have a guy who's not beholden to any special interest. He didn't have to kowtow to any millionaire or any billionaire or any special pleader. He's his own man. He marches to his own drummer. His only responsibility is to the American people. He's been my friend during the years. And we already see the results in only year one. 2 million jobs created. A record stock market that, yes, they're now trying to manipulate back. But even after the recent decline in the market, it's still stronger than when Donald Trump became president. Big corporations like Apple and Ford, these are not exactly Trump supporters, moving back into the country, repatriating hundreds of millions of dollars back in the country. Apple just announced a $350 million expansion in the United States. Now, America is being made great again, and we're only in year one. Just remember the historic tax cuts, the biggest tax cuts in American history. Tax cuts bigger than the great Ronald Reagan gave us. They haven't even had time to kick in yet. They haven't even had time to get traction and turbocharge this economy. Those Republicans who are wringing their hands and saying, we're going to lose the House in 2018, we're going to lose the election, I say this. Let the Democrats run on, we hate Trump. Let the Republicans run on jobs and prosperity and making America great again, and we will make gains in prosperity. And woe be to those country club Republicans who decide to desert the president and put distance between the president. You run with the president and you will win. You retreat from the president and you will lose. There's no question that Donald Trump won one of the greatest victories in American political history. Entirely improbable. I think you got to go all the way back to 1948 in the historic election between Harry Truman and Governor Tom Dewey to find an upset quite as big. And the more I examined it, the more I realized how the parallels between those two extraordinary elections. Now, all of the polls showed that Governor Dewey could not be defeated, and feisty Harry Truman just refused to accept that as a verdict. And he got on a train moving west, and at breakneck speeds, he started doing the first real whistle stop across the country. As he moved west, his crowds got bigger and bigger and bigger, and his rhetoric got tougher and tougher and tougher, and he took the fight to the Republicans. And of course, Governor Dewey's advisors were saying, Tom, don't say anything. You got this in the bag. Don't rock the boat. This guy Truman's not going anyplace. Well, I thought about that, and I read a story that said that Truman would actually get up in the cab of the train and he would exhort the engineers to go faster, faster, so we can make more stops and see more people, breaking all kinds of speed laws. And then I heard that on his plane, Donald Trump would go up to the cockpit and keep saying, okay, we're going to drop you pilots off at the next stop. We got to get a new set of pilots because we're going to Chicago, we're going to Detroit, we're going to Wisconsin. Now, the truth of it is, just like Harry Truman outworked Tom Dewey, outthought Tom Dewey, outfoxed Tom Dewey, if you look at the days before the election, Donald Trump is barnstorming Democratic strongholds in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in Ohio. And where's Hillary Clinton? Well, she's in Chappaqua picking out the fabric for the curtains in the Oval Office. The arrogance of these people is amazing. Now, I wrote a story for the Hill magazine, Hill newspaper, I should say. And in it, I expressed a concern before the election that these computerized voting machines that are very simple, they're basically fundamentally, a computer, are with a $15 device that you can get at Best Buy, you can hack and manipulate these machines. It's very simple. And they're hooked up to a central server in the city or the county where they're in use. And I expressed a concern that in these urban areas, they would manipulate the machines to cheat our candidate, Donald Trump. Boy, all hell broke loose when I wrote that. I was denounced by Media Matters for America and every other Clinton left-wing apologist group and some mainstream media outlets about the irresponsibility of my comments. I was eroding confidence in the democratic system. Of course, Trump went on to win. And then Hillary Clinton decided to file for recounts in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Now, how that works is you have to give notice of your intention to ask for a recount. That's just a general objection. And then you have to come in later with the substance of your concern, the actual evidence that would justify a recount. You know what Hillary's justification was? Well, these computerized voting machines are easily hacked and manipulated. And we had the recounts. And you know what we found out? Donald Trump actually won a little bigger than we thought he did on election night. And then, John Podesta, you've heard of him. He's the guy who got $38 million from a bank controlled by an oligarch who's close to Vladimir Putin. He said, well, the CIA, the government, should brief the Electoral College before they vote on Russian collusion. Well, that would have been the shortest briefing in American history. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the claim that the Russian state, or that anyone affiliated with Donald Trump, or the Trump family, or the Trump campaign, or Trump associates, coordinated, conspired, colluded with the Russian state, is a fairy tale. It's a fraud. It's a canard. It's a steaming plate of horse pucky. It's just not true. And they've spent millions of dollars, of our tax dollars, on a federal investigation, and House and Senate investigations, and you know what they have? They have nothing. And then when Donald Trump Jr., who is a great patriot and a great guy, takes a meeting with a Russian lawyer who's a friend of somebody he knows, and that meeting produces nothing. She says before the meeting she's got evidence of wrongdoing by Hillary, but she has no such evidence and nothing comes of the meeting. And later we find out that the Russian woman is in the country illegally, and the Obama FBI and the NSA has let her in the country without a visa. Well, can you say set up? But the Democrats go wild. Donald Trump Jr. is talking to foreign nationals trying to get negative information on Hillary Clinton. What happened 2 days ago? Adam Schiff, you know him. He gets pranked by two guys who are radio disc jockeys. They say they're Ukrainians. He's dumb enough to buy it. And they say, we've got naked pictures of Donald Trump and the beauty queen. And he's like, tell me more. Which is why, ladies and gentlemen, I say to you, if it's Schiff, flush it. In the 40 years that I've been in politics, I have never seen a sweatier, more odious, a more malicious, more dishonest bullshit artist in my entire life. Which is why I think Congressman Matt Gaetz from here in Florida deserves enormous credit yesterday for calling for Adam Schiff to step down from the House Intelligence Committee. Now, I went to the House Intelligence Committee, as you may have read. I testified voluntarily. There was no subpoena. I was under oath. And I answered every question. I did not plead my Fifth Amendment rights, which I could have done. And I told that committee I knew of no collusion or coordination or conspiracy or conspiring with the Russians. And I must tell you, I rank testifying with the House Intelligence Committee up there with a proctological exam as one of the great experiences of your life. And I think it is inherently unfair that members of that committee, Adam Schiff, Congressman Eric Swalwell, Jackie Spire, rhymes with liar, they're allowed to malign you in public. They can say you're a Russian agent, you're a traitor, you've broken the law, you're conspiring with WikiLeaks. But when it's time for you to defend yourself, oh no, you've got to do that behind closed doors. That can't be in public. That seems fundamentally un-American to me. Seems unfair. But I did it, and I must tell you, my impression when I came out of that and I saw these congressmen was, don't swallow that, it's covered with Schiff. I may yet have to testify or agree to testify voluntarily for the Senate Judiciary or the Senate Intelligence Committee, and I'm happy to do so because the claim by liberals that Roger Stone's tweets show that he knew that the WikiLeaks news website had obtained and would publish Hillary Clinton's emails in advance. Well, I knew it because I read where Julian Assange, who's not a Russian agent but a journalist, said it in an interview. And he himself has said, Roger Stone never said anything I hadn't already said in public. So the bottom line of it is, yes, I can read. Now, in January of 2016, the Panama Papers were published, which is where we learned that John Podesta and his brother Tony were in bed with the oligarchs around Vladimir Putin. There's the uranium deal, you've probably heard of that.
Yeah.
There's the gas deal, there's the banking deal. And therefore, when I tweeted after Paul Manafort, who was a boyhood friend of mine, going back to young Republicans, college Republicans, and a good man, a man who was being falsely crucified, it's easy, Manafort. Just tell us you were colluding with the Russians and Trump knew everything and we'll let you off the hook. He's not going to do that, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lie. He is not going to roll on this country. He is not going to perjure himself to please his tormentors and to hand over the President of the United States on the basis of false testimony. But I knew that